You have to forgive me because I'm going to fangirl for like the first 10, 15 minutes because I am such a fan, right? So like, number one, your book is the first audiobook I've ever like listened to. And I know that's a shame, like having reached 45 years old and it's like, oh, my first audiobook. And it's you in my ear.
Well, I'm glad that you, of first, thank you.
Yes, you were my first.
I'm gonna take that.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you, first and foremost. Yes. I'm terrible at compliments. And I've got that from the Irish Catholic side where it's like, can't say, don't get too above your station, don't. But it's fine. The Nigerian's in there enough to balance it all out.
The Nigerian can balance that out just fine. It's like, oh, you haven't complimented me enough.
But the compliments are valid. Welcome to Adventures from the Bedrooms of African Women. My name is Nanada Kwanse-Chiama.
And I'm your girl, Malika Grant. Today, we have a man in our bedroom, y'all.
Why are you saying it like you don't normally have a man in your bedroom?
Because there could be multiple things in my bedroom.
Okay, fair enough.
But this particular man...
I know you're just excited to have this particular man.
Ooh, this is a good man,
y'all.
You
wish you had this particular man in your bedroom.
Publicly that I wish, but internally I can have that dialogue. But it's just between
you, I, and, all our podcast
and all our listeners. It's the multi-talented and modest thespian, author, singer, Obioma Ugoala. Welcome, bro.
Hey, how we doing?
Awesome. We are so excited to have you here today because we are going to be discussing something that is near and dear to my heart, and that is masculinity and sexuality. Specifically, we're going to be talking about your book, which is entitled, please say the name for me because I like it when you talk.
It's called The Problem with My Normal Penis, Myths of Race, Sex, and Masculinity.
So can I jump in here, Malika?
Yes, you can.
Because I absolutely love this title. How did the title come to you?
It's really interesting. My career started sort of doing straight plays and theatre, Shakespeare. And then I moved into musical theatre and I was in the original company of Hamilton in London on the West End. And I was playing George Washington. On one night out, I was talking to a fellow actor, a black man. We were having this conversation and he said, black men just have higher sex drives than white men. And I said, And he said, no, it's just true. I mean, look at the number of the rising population of mixed race people. And I was like, okay, well, that's nonsense. But let's keep trying to pull at this thread. I said, what do you mean by that? And he's just like, black men just like to fuck more. Pardon me. Sorry, black men.
We are allowed to say all of the words. This is a podcast about sex.
F-bombs, anything. Yes. It's a free show.
Anyway, so I said, let's just imagine if you would, that somehow all of the sex that you're having. How are you representative of all black men? And I began to realize that actually it didn't matter for him, the illogical nature of that statement. What was most important for him and for his sense of identity was, I am a sexy black man. I throw down in the bedroom. And it, no matter the amount of racist narrative that was behind the myth of the big black penis or the hyper-sexualized black man, for him, it was really important to his sense of self-identity of being a black man. And so when I was originally pitching the book, the title was N*** penis, because when you see that, especially if you've grown up in the Western world, your mind immediately is socialized to go, oh, the N-word.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so I wanted to sort of interrogate, what does it mean to have this idea of what normal is? When we see that Our mind jumps to a place. So when you see a black man, where does our mind jump to? And I began to sort of interrogate my own journey in growing up as a young man and how I'd been socialized and racialized to perform certain gender roles, and was taught that there was a specific, right way to be a man and a right way to be a black man. And that actually in this world of, racist patriarchy, when I roll the dice, if I get a +2 on my sex and everyone goes, yeah, but he's got a big black dick, great. And I get a -2 on everything else when it comes to, my employment possibilities or my encounters with the justice system or, what my education outcomes are going to look like. I'm going to lean into the one perceived advantage that I have. And so there was this complicated thing for me where whilst initially I was angry at, this friend of mine for not being able to recognize the damaging nature of that trope of, this hyper-sexualized black man and where that comes from. Actually, there was also this deep pity of how he had been taught, how I had been taught to be a black man. It's very hard to shift that dynamic and to think that there's a different way that you could do things. But ultimately, if I want to do things differently, and if I want my children to grow up in a world where they're doing things differently, then I sort of need to be the change that I want to see in the world. And so I need to start having those healthy relationships with my partners or, with potential partners of saying, like, I need you to be able to sort of hold the complexity of that and the awkwardness of us wanting to do better.
And how have you been able to have those conversations with like partners or prospective partners? Because I agree with you, as like this is really hard for people to shift for both men and women. I wrote a book called The Sex Lives of African Women. And one of the questions someone asked me was, in your conversations with women, did the question of dick size come up? And funny enough, I don't think it really came up in my book, but in the blog that Malaika and I have, it's like an obsession, because we invite people to submit guest posts. And there's so many posts where people want to know about dick size. Does dick size matter? The majority of women in the comments will say, yes, they do. I personally am like, hell no, And I think it's really hard to shift people's mind around this. And people don't realize, like you pointed out, this actually comes from racist depictions of black men as close to animals, right?
Can I just add to that is that for the last 3 years, the top 5 searches to get to our blog has been how to eat a dick, dick size, measuring dick.
How to eat a dick. How to eat a dick.
How to predict the size of a dick. And then how to suck dick are the top 3 searches. Look at Obi's face. How to find.
Listen, I'm glad that the listeners at home can't see my face. No, but you know what? It's funny, isn't it? The obsession with it, because where does that come from?
Yeah.
I mean, but like genuinely, where does it come from? Because we don't start out here with an innate knowledge of what sex is going to be like. So someone somewhere has gone, oh no, the kind, I need some big dick kind of, I want someone who's hung low, Bernie Mac. Like, I want someone who can satisfy me. And you're like, huh? What?
Who can rearrange my guts? I'm like, that doesn't sound like fun to me.
It doesn't sound pleasurable.
But right, so pleasurable is the interesting thing. And we see it in the evolution of how women's orgasms have been seen throughout history, right? That previously, a woman was hysterical, so she just needed to have an orgasm so she could calm down. And then it was like, a woman must have orgasmed because she fell pregnant, so she must have enjoyed it. And then I can't remember when exactly, but there was a study that was done in the US where they said, yo, women, how often do you come with your partner? And then how often do you come by yourself?
Yes.
Hey, just
yes.
All of a sudden, men got real obsessed with it. Because of that disparity, it was, I'm somehow not doing the thing. I need to be able to do the thing. I'm not a man if I'm not pleasuring my woman. And so we then get caught up in this idea of, you know, actually female pleasure. But weirdly, as with all of this throughout human history, it's not about female pleasure. It's about how female pleasure makes a man feel.
Yeah.
How you can empower a man in his masculinity. It's never actually about the female orgasm. And the problem with that, right, is that, well, there are twofold. Firstly, you're not really seeing each other, right? So it's not actually that most intimate of human things isn't a genuine connection between humans. And when you're saying, hey, you're here, I'm here, we're having a meeting of minds and moments or whatever. So it's not just that, but you've also got this rather depressing heightened potential for sexual violence. Because if a man so sees his worth as intrinsically tied into a female empowering him, then when she says, no, I'm not going to empower you. No, you didn't make me come. No, I'm not going to give you my number. No, you can't take me out on a date or buy me a drink. They feel so shattered and destabilized that they lash out. And when they're fragile, rather than just accepting and going, oh, okay, well, you didn't want to have a meeting of minds. You said, no, you wanted to say that I am less of a man. And that's where it's sort of almost more dangerous. As much as, like, yes, don't internalize misogyny, don't internalize racism, where these tropes come from, fine. But also just from on like a human level, the potential to raise a generation of boys and men who might go out and then do violent things, right? Because we look at all of these things, be they, you know, the gender pay gap or childcare or, you know, violence against women and girls, as if they're somehow separate, whereas actually they're all interlinked. We're trying to address, oh, there's a bit of systemic racism over here. There's a bit of problems with the police over there. There's a bit of gender issues. No. You need to understand that all of these things are interconnected. And then in so doing, we can say, oh, actually, you know, the patriarchy is harming men. And it's not allowing them to have good sort of, you know, sexual relations with their partner, which ultimately no one else is in that bedroom with you for the next 40 years than you and your wife. So why do you care if someone's going, oh, actually, the ideal penis is this. Actually, the best way to have sex. No. It should all be about how you are sort of centering each other, because you were the only two people in that relationship. You two are the focus of it, or you should be the focus of that.
And I feel like part of the problem with, you know, overly centering the penis is the penis doesn't always do what penis owners want them to do. At least the flesh ones. And I'm like, why are you limiting all the pleasure you can give somebody to just this, like, one thing on your body? You know, when there's so much more, like why? Why put yourself under that pressure?
Can I ask it? I don't know if this is too forward, but if that has ever happened,
so many times.
Oh gosh!
But what has been your?
And I realized it wasn't me. I just have to say that for the record.
Keeps happening. I don't know why.
I don't know why.
Interesting.
At least twice a week.
But with those people, how do you deal with it afterwards?
It's so funny. I'll tell you, like, my favorite experience with a man who basically, you know, lost his erection. And we were in bed together. And then he said, it happens sometimes. And I was blown away because nobody has ever said that to me, right? I feel like what I usually experience is a person then keeps trying and then it becomes this frenetic act. And it's almost like I need to get it in and I need to hold it with my hand to keep it in. And then you're just like, this is not fun. This is now stressful. And then I'm kind of feeling a bit embarrassed for the person and kind of feeling like I need to go along so they don't feel bad, right? Rather than, I guess, saying, you know what, it's fine. Like, let's just do something else, you know?
Let's watch Netflix.
No, I mean, let's do something else sexually.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm personally somebody who doesn't derive a lot of pleasure from penetrative sex anyway. So that's never the main thing for me. I always say, for me, foreplay is main play. But I wish more men would just recognize that and not feel like this is the goal,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
But, and again, it's like, where have we learnt that from? Right? If you are doing that, if you're in that dynamic and you don't have the honesty with each other to just go, you know what? It's a lot today. I'm tired. I'm tired. But you're both in this fake version of performance. How can you progress? Like, as a relationship, how can you truly be intimate and connected if you can't be honest enough to just go, listen, it didn't happen today. And I don't know about you, but some of the best sex that I've ever had is when you can truly laugh and there are funny noises made and you just go, that was stupid. You know, for a moment you can just go, a little bit ridiculous. Because that's the thing, right? It's in the fragile male ego, there is this sense that this person who I'm seeing and who I want to see me isn't. Which is why, counterintuitively, the more open you can be, the more enjoyable they will find your penis. And the more enjoyable they will find your oral, because actually you have been more radically honest about what you enjoy and what they enjoy than any previous partner. You know, and I'm gonna say a thing because I know I've had conversations with my friends where they're like, oh yeah. And then she tried to put a finger up my butt. What she did? Oh my, I'm not gay. And I'm like, okay, but did you enjoy it?
Right.
And 5-10 years ago, my friends, oh, she tried to do that. And now, because we as men have grown up, we having a conversation like, I don't lie, you know, it was kind of.
I kind of like it to the knuckles.
She can't do the thing with a thing and it can't feel like a thing, you know? Because also, like, is the reason why you don't like the thing because you don't like the thing? Or is it because there's some weird perception of like what you shouldn't like? Like what is unacceptable to like? And for me, I'm like, listen, you and your partner can do whatever you and your partner do in your bedroom because it's you. So you trying to like hold it down for the mandem and not let someone put their finger wherever or, you know, use a toy if she does or doesn't want to, like, huh? Why not? And again, like we've said, like a lot of women, penetrative sex, that's not how they orgasm. So
I think the stats that most people mention is like 70% of women don't orgasm during sex with a partner.
And you see that and you go, but is that, you know, trying to put yourself into that category of going, yeah, we've got to be in that 30%. And it's like, why?
It's impossible.
You know what I mean? Like, who's it for? Make it make sense. Listen, or is it just that you're like, oh, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to be. What would the mandem say? What would the other men who have taught me what it is to be a man say about my masculinity? And if you, you know, I think what's really tricky when it comes to this idea of masculinity, there's this, when you try to unpick yourself from it, when you try to tell people, actually, I don't co-sign that anymore. And you're with the group of friends and you're out and you say, oh, got to get back to the wife. And everyone goes, whoa, all right. Oh, gonna leave the boys, are you? Yeah. There's this odd thing that happens when you talk about women in a certain way. And that's how you bonded, right? You have been taught that the way to bond and sort of feel connected to your other male friends is to be a smaller, more narrow-minded version of yourself. And so you mutilate yourself. You cut yourself on your hand and you shake hands with another man who has cut himself and said, yeah, I'm going to say that it's okay to be homophobic. I'm going to say that it's okay to be misogynistic. And we're going to shake hands on that. Now, the problem is that when you then look down at your hands and you continue cutting yourself, laughing at those rape jokes, laughing at those homophobic jokes, laughing at those misogynistic jokes, the moment you go, wait a second, I'm in charge of me and I'm the one who's cutting my hand open and making myself continually bleed, I'm not going to do that anymore. because I have a wife at home. I've got some gay friends. I've read some articles. I don't need this. I don't need that to bond. And you say to your friends, we're still friends, but we don't need this weird blood bond of being damaging to ourselves.
Obi is a storyteller.
Obioma, I'm wondering if you have thoughts around how we can get men to like reimagine a more expansive form of masculinity, right? One that's not wedded to these old patriarchal ideas that we've been talking about. How can we encourage that shift? I mean, I always feel like that's work that men need to do themselves, you know? I feel like as a feminist, too many people ask us, so what are you doing about the men and boys? And I'm like, well, what are you doing about the men and boys? And I feel like you're doing something. And so for me, it's great that you're there as an example. But how can we broadly get boys to think differently, you know, get men to also think differently? How can we, and this is a lot of pressure for me to even ask you this question, but how can we like have a sort of generational shift and an understanding of masculinity?
I think it's normalizing going to therapy, B, talking about your feelings with your friends, right? Reaching out to your friends and your peers, because men don't. I don't want to say black men, white men, because I think men oftentimes don't. And we need a social lubricant, right? Where now when I'm talking to my male friends, I say at the end of the call, I'm like, listen, I love you. I'll speak to you soon. Yeah. And I want to normalize that because why not?
Yeah.
I had a friend of mine whose dad was dying and he didn't hug him and say, I loved you before he passed, because he knew that he didn't have that relationship with his father. And he was worried that it would somehow diminish their relationship. And he said afterwards that he regretted it. And I thought, how tragic that, again, these people outside who have socialized you in a certain way have convinced you that you can't tell your parent who is dying that you love him. And it generationally across the diaspora, we need to learn to unpick that, because it's hard. And there are certain black men who weren't allowed the luxury of that softness. They couldn't permit themselves to be emotional at work, because if they were, they'd get fired. They couldn't permit themselves to lash out at the cop, because if they did, they might end up dead. And I think emotions are valid. And I think vulnerability is valid. And I think for some people, it is a luxury. So I think if you don't hold space and give grace to your elders and from people who are coming from a slightly different lived experience, and expect them to arrive where you are now, having stood on their shoulders, and expect them to not, you're like, whoa, how comes you're not this far up the mountain? It's like, sir, I paved this path for you. You walked along my back to get here. So just take a second, help me up, help me get there. And I will, I promise you. I might not get there as fast as you might want me to, but part of that is from having to lay myself down on like broken shards of stones so that you didn't cut your feet. So just like, give me a second, you know? So we can get there, and I am optimistic, but I think, you know, it involves holding space and grace for each other.
Obi, has having conversations like this had any sort of effect on your dating life?
Yeah. I think I'm a lot more intentional now about the politic of my own life. And it's tricky because I'm from a mixed heritage relationship anyway. So as an Irish-Nigerian, there's like am I only attracted to certain people because of the racist Britain that I grew up in? Or is it, you know, just that I actually really clicked with this person? And I think when it comes to any of that, it is just about who sees you. And if I have a partner who sees me and knows, you know, oh, listen, I tried to cook some jollof rice, and you know what, it wasn't perfect, but I'm really trying out here. I'm like, listen, yeah, because I know that there are people who still see my mum, who's been married to my dad coming up on 40 years, and people are like, oh, who's this Oibo? This white woman who just this Mzungu. What can you have for this man? And it's like, she's got a lot. So like, just watch yourself. And I think ultimately it's just, as long as somebody is trying to see all of you and isn't trying to see this sort of racist stereotype of you, or even this, like, it's not even just racist. It's like this sort of masculine version of the man that you're meant to be. They're not trying to be who you're meant to be, but who you are. The person who sees you for who you are is the person who I want to sort of spend the rest of my life with, I think.
We have a final question that we're asking all of the guests that come on this season. Is there a sexy secret that you can share with us? And you can interpret that any way you want to interpret it.
Is there a sexy secret? You know what? Here's my sexy secret. Amazon do sex toys, and don't be shy. They're there for you to use. They come in discreet packages. And like, why not? Because as we say, sometimes we'll be tired. And sometimes it's not penetrative sex that's going to really bring you to that place. So maybe just to have one little, bullet on the bedside drawer, you just, okay, we're there. Can just mix up the whole thing.
Supporting cast member.
And those days when you're just like, sorry, it's not happening, you'll be like, oh, okay, but it's not over. It's not happening for you, but it's not over. So I would just say it's there, and the packaging is discreet and affordable. So
love it. Oh my gosh, thank you so much.
Thank you
Obioma.
so much.
I have loved chatting to you.
Thank you.
And I know the paperback edition of your book is coming out soon, right?
It is out.
I could listen to Obi talk forever, his voice.
I could listen to Obi sing the phone book if he still printed phone books.
And I loved his sexy secret.
I did.
It's just pragmatic. Like,
Yes.
seriously, all men have to just do that.
They just need to plug in and dig in and accept the help.
And listen, do you have a sexy secret to share with us? Like, let us know what your sexy secrets are. Share hashtag sexy secrets, tag at adventures from
On Twitter, and Adventures From on Instagram, and Adventures From everywhere.
and tag our studio too, AQ Studios.
Yes, we'd love to hear from you.
Let us know, what are your sexy secrets? We're
You freak.
listening.
The Adventures from the Bedrooms of African Women podcast is hosted by Malika Grant and Nana Darkose Chiama. Sally Chan, AQ Studios' CEO, is an executive producer alongside the hosts. Freddie Boswell is a senior producer. Audio editors are Mercy Barno and Tevin Sudi, alongside production support from Mercy Gidaiga and Lucas Ngao. The Adventures from the Bedrooms of African Women podcast is a production of AQ Studios in partnership with Massy Media. Follow us on all our socials at AQ Studios Podcasts. Our theme music is Damn by Rhea Boss. Find Adventures from the Bedrooms of African Women anywhere you get your podcasts, and in the pursuit of all things sex, sexuality, and pleasure, follow us on all our social media platforms at Adventures From. Thank you for listening.
Damn, she's so fly. Goddamn, she might die. She goddamn with the goddess life. She everything.